journey and the lessons, your journey, your lessons, the journey and lessons that can.
Welcome to the Journeys and Lessons podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan. And of course, this is yet another life changing episode where we dive into the untold stories of resilience, purpose, and the extraordinary power of the work of God in the lives of His people. I'm your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, and today I have the honor of sitting with a true living miracle. Our guest today is none other than Pastor Patrick Smith, a beloved shepherd of Bethlehem Apostolic Church in Montreal. But many know him as a pastor. Many know him as a miracle man. His life, his testimony is nothing short of a divine intervention. After falling into a coma and being resuscitated many times, Pastor Smith is a walking, breathing, living witness of the healing power of God. His journey will leave you speechless, stirred, and strengthened in your faith. So buckle up, because this episode is going to remind you that God still works miracles and there is purpose on the other side of your pain. So help me welcome to the to the Journeys and Lessons podcast, Pastor Patrick Smith. God bless you, sir, and welcome to the Journeys and Lessons.
Bless you, bless you. Thank you for having me.
Great. I'm so delighted for the opportunity to sit down with you and to have this conversation. And as I often open and say that a lot of time people see us and they have seen the pastoral leadership, they have seen the skills, they know you, but not a lot of persons understand the journey. It's saying that they see the glory but don't know the story. And so this podcast is created to really unlock that story and go beyond the veil of what persons see every day. And we talk about the man behind the ministry, behind the pastoring, behind the call, the family man, the father. And so we want to have that conversation with you. So, sir, we're going to kick it off because we want to talk about your formative years. I know that you're Jamaican, grew up in Jamaica and so forth. So talk to me about your formative years coming up in Jamaica, school, life, what it was like there growing up, your formative years.
That's a far way back. I grew up in what some would deem as a very poor community in Jamaica. A lot of people I talk to today don't even know the name of the place that I was born. I was born in a place called Potsdam District, situated near the popular Montreal College.
All right, now.
Elizabeth, Jamaica. My upbringing was tedious, trying, you name it. My grandmother was what some would call in the community a white woman, and my grandfather was a black man. Had 11 children, and then all of his children had children, and we all lived in a 5-bedroom, what they used to call mud and wattle house. It wasn't concrete. It was like wood and mud that built that zinc roof structure. We had a tank. The family income generally came from farming.
Right.
My grandmother had a huge batch of coffee trees that she would get the coffee from, that she would take to market. My grandfather was an avid farmer and he raised livestock. But in those days, once you sell a few stuff, you have to wait again until you sell something else. So in the community I grew up, we were the home everybody avoided. Nobody wanted to go. We were the poor. When I started out going to school, I was wearing hand-me-downs that sometimes wouldn't last an entire term.
Right.
My friends would make fun of me because the hand-me-downs, I'm tall, I'm 6'4", and I've always been tall.
Right.
And my cousins and, those that I would get the hand-me-downs from, they were relatively shorter. So me putting on somebody's pants, it looked like what.
Right.
You take your measurement standing in water, so to speak. So bullied, I remember I was told later, but my father, who um, I shouldn't even say father, the man who impregnated my mother, didn't
Mm-hmm.
want anything to do with me. He was from a more affluent home.
Mm.
At the age of 6, I remember my mother getting married to a fisherman from Treasure Beach.
Mm.
At the time, she had already had two children for him. So when they got married, he took his two children and, of course, left me. He didn't want anything to do
Wow.
with another man's child. So I was raised by my mother's parents, my grandparents.
Mm.
And so, I became rebellious. They say you hit head with bad company.
Mm-hmm.
And, my grandmother was a disciplinarian,
Right.
and she was an avid cigarette smoker. She was used
Wow.
one to like the other. And I grew up
Wow.
in the time where you could go to the community shop and just tell the shopkeeper, Mama, send this
Yeah.
come next
Yep.
week.
Yep.
And so,
Yes.
she would send us to go get her cigarettes. And of course, we would steal one out and, me and my cousins would go hide somewhere and smoke it.
Right.
Um, and, we would go to places where we could get alcohol. And I'm talking about as early as 9, 10 years old.
Wow. Wow.
We were drinking rum, anything we could get. We were smoking cigarettes, marijuana. A lot of people
Mm.
don't know, but tobacco, dry tobacco leaves that
Yes.
my
Back in
grandmother
those
would have,
days.
yeah, hanging up in the ceiling. We would
Mm-hmm.
get some of those. When those didn't suffice, we would go and the chocho leaves, the chocho
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
vegetable. We got
Right.
these and dry. We would smoke those. Whether it was newspaper, brown paper, any paper we got, we would just roll it up in there and smoke it. So I was very, very, very rebellious. And even though my grandmother was like that, she would ensure that every Sunday morning we were going to Sunday school. She
You go to
wasn't
Sunday
coming,
school.
but
But
you would
you have to go.
take her.
You-
Yes.
'Cause that's the part of growing up in Jamaica, that whether or not your parents go to church, it's a must that you have to go. Would you then say that your grandparents who grew you were your key figures in your upbringing? Would you say?
Yes, especially my grandmother. I became you would say a mama's boy, not with my mother,
Mhm.
but my grandmother. Then I was introduced to my other grandmother, so the man who impregnated
Right. I call
my
mine my sperm donor, or the drunk driver that never stick
well,
around there.
well, I don't want to go to that extent because after
It got better.
well, to some extent, and I'll tell you how that came about. I was introduced to his mother,
Right.
and I later learned out that they lived 4 miles away from where I was living at the time. And when I passed my exam to go to St. Elizabeth Technical High School,
Right.
I had to go to the house. So I literally walked 8 miles because I had
Oh
to walk
wow.
4 miles there and then the 4 miles back. In those times, there wasn't a lot of cars on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have the money to take a taxi or whatever. So you would walk, and as they would say, boom a ride. And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody pitied you and pick you up on the way, then that was it. Otherwise, you would have to walk literally the entire um, 4 miles there and 4 miles back, right? And so I had to go. I told my grandmother, that I had passed my exams to go to high school, and she was, of course, excited. And then she went down to my father's house because when I went down there, I used to have to stop by my grandmother's house, and then she would kind of be the cushion to
Right.
kind
Right.
of. At the time, he was married to another lady that had a child before he met her, and then I had a sister, so I have two sisters by his side.
Right.
Um, and he was taking care of them financially, but want nothing to do with me. And
Right.
then his wife, no, of course, was not cordial towards me. You know how women are. You felt like the
I
outside
I
child
I know.
is
I
gonna
know.
take away things from their child.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right. And that's why I said our story is so similar. Because similar to mine, I just call mine my donor, or I call him the drunk driver. Why I call him the drunk driver? Because drunk drivers never stay on the scene to make a report. They're drunk, they hit and they run. So that's what he does. He hit and him run. He don't stay on the scene. He keep it moving. So I call him my donor. Similar. He's married, has his family. He's later on, even his wife knew about us. We were before his wife, for they married, and I didn't know quite a number of my siblings. In fact, 2 years ago, I met three brothers. I thought I had one brother by my mother's side all my life. 2 years ago, I met three brothers. So I have four
Wow.
brothers. I met siblings.
Wow.
So you understand. So
Yeah.
we're talking, and I'm like, oh my God, just so much similarities with our upbringing. So I
Yeah.
guess your roots started there in terms of your upbringing and so forth. But I think there are some lessons that you would have garnered. What were those foundational lessons that were instilled in you, even as you're growing up and you have a grandmother who is saying, listen, you have to go to church, and then you know that that isn't really in my life like that. So there are certain things that I have to push, and I'm modeling granddad. I'm seeing my grandfather being somebody who's up and going and working, and my grandparents working and so forth. And you understand the realities of your life, especially in you reach high school and you start to understand the reality. What values or lessons then that
The,
was garnered early?
the biggest lesson I think for me was that not having that father figure in your life exposed you to a lot of things that at such a young age you were not supposed to be exposed to.
Mm,
If there was a father figure in your life to kind of
yes.
show you the ropes and kind of guard you and guide you along life's path, you would not have been exposed to alcohol at an early age,
Right.
or drugs, or girls. You would
Hmm.
have your head screwed on straight because there was somebody in the house for you to be accountable to, right?
That's right.
And I started looking up to both my grandfathers, Mas Leonard and Mas Smith. And you know my life trajectory is such that almost every angle I felt like I was hitting a wall. Like, I started looking up to these men, and then first Mas Smith went, Mas Eddie went,
Yes.
um, and then we call him Mas Leonard, our dad, we used to call him. Then he went, and now I was like, okay, my father don't want to have anything to do with me. My mother husband don't want to have anything to do with me. My both grandfathers are now gone. Like, I felt like I was unloved, unwanted,
Ooh.
and I became suicidal.
Mm.
Um, and my grandmother was my saving grace.
Wow.
Um, and the first lesson she taught me, and I kid you not, I remember I was 13 years old. My grandmother, along with the coffee that she would sell, she was one of those domestic persons that she would take in clothes from Montreal College. So she was one of the persons that laundered clothes for the boarders, the students that was boarded at the college. So they would send bags and bags of clothes over to our home, and my grandmother and her daughters would wash them, iron them,
Wow.
starch them, and then send them back
Send them
home.
back.
So that was another source of income for her. And my grandmother, she taught me how to wash, she taught me how to iron, and at those times it was those big black irons that you would have to literally put on the coals and then take
Yes.
and rub them off, and then
Rub it and then iron it. I know those.
and then the advancement came where you put the coal inside.
Inside. Oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh yes.
that's it. So my grandmother, she taught me how to wash, she taught me how to iron, she taught me how to clean. And when I say clean, I mean wash the floor, use the red floor polish and the coconut
Yes.
brush.
Coconut brush.
Yeah,
Yes.
she taught me how to do all of that, and then she taught me how to cook, because she was responsible. She and my older aunt, Auntie Blossom, they were responsible for preparing the Sunday meal.
Right.
And so on a Saturday, the boys would have to go to the bush to look firewood. Sometimes,
Yes.
and sometimes we have to go for miles. And my grandmother was a beast. When you see her wielding a machete to cut some of those logs, and then
Wow.
tie them up with waists and make the cutter put on your head and put the
Mm-hmm.
bottom. And then you have to walk
Yes.
around. So we'll do that on a Saturday. So she taught me wash, clean, iron, and cook. And I remember at the age of 13, I was somewhere sitting down crying, and she came and she sat beside me and she's, what's wrong? But let me tell you something. When my grandmother is disciplined, you get good discipline. But when she cares, you know she
Yes. That
and she
genuine
said,
grandma love.
yes, man. And I had a conversation with me, and I told her I felt like I didn't belong.
Mm.
I don't know where I fit.
Mm.
Nobody wants me. At school, they were bullying me because at the time they had something called liver spots that would.
Right. Oh, yes.
I had that all over my face.
Wow.
And there was this ointment that you would put on it that had this strong odor. You didn't want
Yes,
to.
man. That sulfur scent.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. And so I was bullied. No girls wanted to talk to me. No, my colleagues, classmates didn't want to. And so I told my grandmother, and she said, look, man, I taught you how to wash. I taught you how to cook. I taught you how to clean. I taught you how to iron. She said, never you go running after a woman, and never you let a woman take advantage of you. She said, as a matter of fact, the only thing you would need a woman for is sex.
Wow.
My grandmother taught me that at 30.
Because she taught you about self-resiliency and
Yes.
how to manage yourself, how to be, that you can get ahead in life because you're able to navigate life challenges, you're able to do things, you're domesticated, able to wash and cook and clean and take care of yourself. And so when that wife comes, is really that helpmeet,
Yes.
when she come. And those are valuable lessons that we'll learn from our childhood. But how were you introduced to church?
No,
I mean, you've been going.
church with all of
Right,
these.
you've been
I
going.
was a part of the church. The church I was going to, it is called Refuge Temple Apostolic
Right.
Church in Potsdam, Montreal. At the time, they were about 2 miles away from where we lived, and we had to walk.
Walk 2 miles.
A lot of times we had to take shortcuts, so we'd go through people's farm, through bushes to get there. But at nights, you don't have street lights or
Bottle touched.
bottle torch, so you can't take shortcuts because
No,
you're
sir.
stuck in the bush.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to walk the road.
Yes.
So we would team up. Those who were coming from my little area or those who were walking past my house, we would all meet in one place and then we'd walk as a group. And so we were still going. We used to have YP youth young people meeting every Sunday evening, and that was where it was, man. Like everybody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And I remember 13, 14, I would go at church, and missionaries then are not like missionaries now. Because even if you weren't saved and you're in young people service and testimony service is going on, you have to get up and say
testify.
Something.
Yes.
You have to. You just feel somebody joking you in your side. Get up and
say something.
Yes. So that was my upbringing. And I remember 14, I was in high school, and I met this young man named, they used to call him Junior. His name is Ivor Palmer Jr. And then another young man from the church, I'm from Elder Shamar Nation. He now pastors a church in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And the three of us ended up in States. I knew Shamar, but I met Junior in high school. And there was something about the three of us. One day, we ended up at school, and before that, we started befriending each other.
Right.
And Ivor would invite me to his youth week in Manchester. Never been to Manchester, never left the community, didn't know how I was going to get there, didn't have money because I used to have to go down, walk the 4 miles to my father's house every Sunday morning, and then walk back to Montreal. So he lived in Southfield, I live in Montreal.
Right.
And I would have to walk back on Sunday morning to get back home in time so that I could get to Sunday school. So I didn't have time to play on the road.
Right.
Right. And so there were some Sunday mornings that I would get there, and my father wouldn't have come home the Saturday night. He was out drinking. So I had no money to go to school. So my grandmother would struggle to to pay the bus driver, because there was a chartered bus that drives through our community to take up all the students that goes to San.
Okay.
So we had to pay that driver. And so sometimes there was no money left for lunch, right? But it was in the summer, August 15th of 1994. I was on summer break from school. But 2 weeks before that, I had raised my hand to be baptized. And Shamar, that's Elder Nation in Atlanta, he raised his hand to be baptized. And because he was my friend, I also raised my hand to be baptized. Following Sunday now, when the bus was going to Treasure Beach, because we had to book a bus to take us to Treasure Beach to be baptized, because we didn't have a pool in the church. Rev, I have never experienced diarrhea in my life.
Oh my God.
I experienced it that Sunday morning. Now, let me just paint the picture. We didn't have indoor plumbing.
Yes, sir.
Had an outdoor latrine that was away. And so you had to have what they call a chimney.
Yes, sir.
Under the bed. And if you do number 2, you have to take it out down to the toilet, dump it, wash it out, and bring it back. And
yes, sir.
Man, it was the worst. So my Aunt Donnet, who was the only person in our family saved at the time, and she was baptized in that church. When she came in the room and she saw me, she was like, no. Rev, can I tell you, as soon as the bus left for Treasure Beach, diarrhea went.
God, Jesus.
Diarrhea went. And I even end up in the mango bush that Sunday with friends.
My God.
Instead of going to church.
Yes.
And the following Sunday, I said, you know what? So I raised my hand, and on August 15th, 2004, they took me down to Treasure Beach, baptized me. And the Friday, I was filled with the Holy Ghost. But that in and of itself is a story maybe for another time.
Yeah, powerful. Fast forward, how did you tap over? Because you went to States, did your time there at States High School. And for those in that are not that St. Elizabeth Technical, for those who follow Champs, Champs Boys and Girls Championship in Jamaica, States is one of those known schools. In St. Elizabeth, the bread and basket parish of Jamaica. And so going fast forward, completing State, how did you start out on your career path? And I know quite a number of your grandmas taught you, but your career choice, how did you tap over into hospitality and tourism, and why make this choice?
That's why I mentioned Ivor Palmer Jr., because when I met him in States, we started having prayer meeting during lunch at States. When we didn't have money for lunch, we'd go down to the farm and we just stay down there and have prayer meeting. Little did I know that God was starting something with us. And that prayer meeting grew to the point where we had to split it up between upper school and lower school. It grew to the point where teachers and the principal, Mr. Samuels at the time, they would come to prayer meeting. We had a box guitar, a tambourine. I don't know if you know of the late Dr. Ivan W. Evans.
Yes. Yes,
Waterloo. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So we had persons in prayer meeting at States that would want to get saved. And we would walk from school over to Waterloo. And Bishop Evans would baptize them, would go back to the farm and have tarrying service. So people were baptized in high school. People were filled even in the chicken coop in high school. But that's a story for another time. In my career now, I remember my last attempt at taking my life. That's actually how I got saved. But during high school, after my grandmother died, I felt so broken. And out of place that, Manual didn't feel like home for me anymore.
Yes.
And when my high school graduation came about in 96, I packed a bag I threw all the books out of my knapsack. I put one change of clothes. And I went to my high school graduation and I said, I'm not coming back home. Not coming back home. And when I got to my graduation, I told Ivor, I said, look, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how God going to work this out, but I'm coming home with you. Right? And after high school, I went to Mandeville, Manchester. I slept on the floor in his room because the room that he was staying, he and his brother at the time was sharing the bed in that room.
Right.
There was no space for me, so I would sleep on the floor. And those of you who know what Manchester was like in the 90s, it was cold.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
can
used to go
imagine.
there as a kid to see my grandaunt.
It was
Yes.
freezing cold. And I would have to sleep on the floor. And then I started going to his church. There was an elderly lady there named Sister Mavis who asked if I wanted to come stay with her. I stayed with her for 6 months, didn't feel comfortable. And then one day the pastor, Bishop Neville B. Gunter, saw me at church and said he doesn't like how I look. And I was telling him my story. And he said, you know what? Come stay at my house. He had just recently returned from the States because he's an American citizen. He had to return home because the church was in some kind of disarray. Right. So he left his wife and his 4 biological sons in Florida and moved back to Jamaica to take care of the church. And he decided that he's going to take me at the age of 17.
Wow.
And he took me in. He asked Ivor to come and stay. Patrick McKenzie, who now lives in Maine, he's one of the young men that got saved in our prayer meeting in high school.
Wow.
Another guy named Fabian McClymont and another one named Fabian Evans. He took all of us in.
Wow.
And he didn't just take us in, Rev. Like he named us his son. Like everywhere he went, he would introduce us to people as his sons.
Wow.
And, it got to the point where everywhere he would go, either 2 of us or all of us, or sometimes one of us would be with him. There were times where he would get invited out to preach and he would send us in his stead. We became his armor bearer, his driver, everything. But what he instilled in us, Rev, I think has stayed with me because he taught us ministry. He taught us how to govern ourselves as young men.
Yes.
Right? Every morning we had to get up for what we call family devotion at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
It didn't matter how late you went to bed. You could have gone to bed at 5 a.m. 6 a.m. you're up.
The discipline.
And yes. Devotion. We had to learn hymns by heart. We're not singing out of no hymnal. You had to learn the hymns by heart. Wow. You had to learn scripture. He would read a passage and you had to listen. You had to pick a verse, be able to recite the verse, and then speak on it. So he was grooming us.
Wow.
And I remember in the year 2000 when he appointed and ordained me an evangelist. And I started traveling all over the place and ministering. And he sat me down and he said, know that because, you're in ministry, when you go out to ministry and you're a young man on fire for God, all the sisters are looking.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, cell phones wasn't as
sir.
No. And so hours of the night, you had these young sisters calling the bishop house, wanting to talk to the young men, and bishop was like, not having it. But you asked about my career. I jumped way ahead.
Yeah, but no, these are great because as you're looking back, and we'll touch on career, but know that you're into it, and we don't want to jump it. You learn so much from that time with Pastor that I'm sure are lessons that you bring into your life now, and even having your own family, and even knowing where the Lord have you. Looking back and like, I thank God for those formative years with Bishop. Taught me so much discipline and helped me to lead the life that I'm living now. So all of that is a part of your journey. So yes, man, we like that because those help.
He did all of this for us, and at the time we didn't know that he was fighting prostate cancer.
Wow.
We didn't know that he was highly diabetic, that he was insulin sufficient.
Wow.
We didn't know any of that, right? And then later he developed, heart issues. So
Wow.
he's a cancer survivor. He's highly diabetic, and he has an issue with his heart. I think recently one of his kidneys failed, and that's the only reason
Wow.
why he hasn't come to Canada to visit, because his health is at such that he can't travel as
Right.
much. And so no, I think he's even in Florida now for treatment because they can't treat him in Jamaica. So he has his green card,
Right.
so it's easier for him to get treatment in Florida. And it's just an hour and a half from Jamaica to
Right.
Florida.
Right.
It's easier for him to
To
um,
go there.
and it's killing him that this August coming I should be installed as the pastor here in Bethlehem, and he can't
Right.
come. So it's
Can't
killing
come.
him, right? And to this day, that's the only man in my life that I call father. So you
Wow.
never hear me talking about dad.
Wow.
And
That's a father. That is so
that was the
powerful.
father that groomed me, and it took me all of 17 years before I got to that level. Right?
Wow. That is so powerful.
But I
Powerful. When
was
your mother and father forsake you,
the Lord.
then the Lord will take you up.
He
There are
provided.
times, and look at the lessons, because there are times when we'll look back and we'll say, my father wasn't there biologically for me how I want him to be there. But then when you look back at even the life that he lived and lead, and to see how the Lord have provide and caused someone else to step in that stead, I believe a lot of what happened to us is the plan and purpose of God. That it hurts, we are wounded. Sometimes we need daddy because we look and we see our friends with their biological father, and we need daddy, and daddy wasn't there. But then later on in life, when you look back and the Lord give you a father who wasn't biologically your father, but you can call him dad and feel so connected to him. Because when you look back at all the valuable lessons that he taught you, you're like, I don't think my father could really teach me all of these lessons that pastor teach me, that I'm able to lead my family, because based on the life that he lived.
And the thing, Rev, is my father was one of the biggest housing contractor in Southfield, St. Elizabeth. And I remember in high school, I decided I was going to study the straight art. So I did architectural engineering, I did woodworking, I did building constructions, I did all the hands-on stuff, because I wanted was to show him that I can maybe take over the business later on.
Yes.
And I remember one summer I was on summer break, and I went to spend 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, with my grandmother, just so I can see and one day he decided to take me along to one of his job sites.
Right.
They were building a house that was near to where he lived, and he decided to take me. And I told myself this was my opportunity to show him,
To shine.
I am looking up to him, and I'm trying to emulate what he's doing.
Right.
And so I was there using shovel, mixing concrete, pushing wheelbarrow, bringing blocks, lifting steel, doing the whole works, man. And like every opportunity that man get on the job site, he would make fun of me. His friend,
Wow.
everybody was there laughing. And I felt
Wow.
so bad, man. Like I never went back to any of his job sites.
Wow. Wow.
And when I left high school and I was living with Bishop Gunter, I decided I wanted something to do. Now, I could go build furniture because I had the knowledge.
Right.
I could go work on some constructions. I could maybe go further my career in architectural design and become an architect. Like, all of that was there. I did not want to go just because of that experience.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So that really crushed your dreams.
It crushed me, man.
Yes.
And I remember I got so good in art. Like, I was, well, still a little bit, but I was so good in performing and visual art that I entered a competition that Jamaica National Bank hosted my last year in high school. And I didn't win, but I came second.
Right.
And second place was a 2-year scholarship to the Edna Manley School of Art.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And that was another one of my dreams that was crushed, because when I went to him to see if he could help me, at the time, my stepsister, so the woman he married, biological daughter,
Right.
was in UWI, and he was the one funding her education. And when I went to him to see if he could help me out for the other 2 years so I could go to Edna Manley, he couldn't. And so I had to give up the scholarship because I could
All
not.
all too familiar. I mean, we need to check if we have the same father.
I could not do it. I could not do it. So I had to
This
give up the scholarship.
this entire story is mine. This whole thing you just framed. It's
So
just mine.
I ended up one of the ushers, a deacon in the church I was attending in Manchester. He was a gardener at the Mandeville Hotel, and he said that they were looking for what they call at the time bellhops.
Yes.
Persons to take people back to the.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I went and I was hired on the spot. So
Wow.
I've been working in hotels from I was 17. So I started doing that. We used to have two forgot. I think one was called Caribe bus tour that would bring German.
Yes.
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 To the hotels. And for you to get enough tips, you
Right.
have to get the bags to the room, make sure the guests, and then get back to the front desk as soon as possible so you could bring more bags. Because the more
That's
bags
right.
you bring- And I started cutting through the kitchen
Yes.
to get back to the front desk. And Rev, that was, what backfired, because going to the kitchen, you started seeing stuff. You started seeing people chopping
Mm-hmm.
and sculptures, and I was just fascinated because, as I said, I'm into the arts. So that
Right.
started, and so it backfired on me, where they would be ringing the bell or calling me on the radio, and I'm in the kitchen watching all
Yeah.
of it. And the executive chef saw me and asked me if I kind of like what, and I told him yes. So I left the bellhop and went to the kitchen, and he
Wow.
started training me. And then he decided that he was going to send me to school.
Yes.
So at the time, I don't know any people know Heart NTA. Heart
Yes.
NTA was offering
Yes.
free culinary programs in Runaway Bay Heart
Yes.
and Academy.
Yes. Heart Academy. They're
And
big on
so,
that still.
yeah,
That's the number one for them for for Runaway Bay for culinary skills.
yes.
Yes.
I went there. I did one, and then I did commis chef 2. I went back. I did housekeeping. I did front office operations, and I did a little bit of French. And then when I did that, I started going on the hotel program. So they started sending me to Florida and to Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, to just work in hotels.
Right.
And then the Jamaica Tourist Board HRD unit heard about me and decided to. And then I ended up going to Hilton Head Island, the American Hospitality Academy in South Carolina, where I furthered my education in hospitality management and
Wow.
tourism.
Wow.
So I have culinary, I have bar, I have housekeeping, I have serving,
Yes.
I have front office, I have the whole works, right? And I did that up until, what was it, 2009, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to take a year off. So I took a year off. And Rev, when I say I was so busy that when I finally decided that I was going to get married,
Right.
I got engaged in 2003. Then I was gone for 18 months.
Right.
I came home in 2004, got married, spent 2 months with my wife, and I was gone again.
Wow. Wow.
Right? And that was how our relationship was. My wife used to brag that she's a Western Union queen.
Yeah.
She went up to, I think, a platinum member.
Yeah.
She was going there so often.
Right.
And, when my daughter was born in 2007, I said, I need to slow down because
Slow
I'm
down.
right. And so, because our first pregnancy, we had a miscarriage in 4 months, and that was just it, my wife.
That has to be.
and I couldn't be there as much as I wanted. And then she got
Right.
pregnant, and we had our daughter, and I'm like, no, I can't. So I took 2009. I said, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this. Took a year off, and I started working as a what do they call it now? Bursar assistant at the Hatfield Primary and Junior High School.
Okay. Yeah.
Because my wife's mother was a senior teacher and the guidance and assistant guidance counselor there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, it don't make sense I sit down home not doing anything.
Let's
At
do
least,
something.
yeah. And so they hired me. And one Sunday afternoon, where I was living, because when I got married, my wife's father gave us a quarter acre of a land close to their house as a wedding
Right.
gift.
Oh,
And
wow.
we ended up building our house there. So we
Right.
basically, her parents and our home is on the same plot of land.
Flat. Right.
And so after dinner one Sunday evening, we all went over to, the grandparents' house, and we were just there talking. And Sunday Gleaner, there was a lady who used to walk through the community and sell Sunday Glean. And that day, Uncle Jolly, I call my father-in-law Uncle Jolly. That's what every taxi man in Mandeville know him as, because he's run
Right.
for years.
Right.
I call him Uncle Jolly. And, he bought a Sunday Glean, and we were there. And for some reason, Mommy Donna was going through the career section. And she saw where there was a restaurant and pub in Lethbridge, Alberta, that was looking for a manager, and they wanted somebody with advanced hospitality experience.
Wow.
And just out of joke, I guess, she said, why don't you try this? You're tired of the States and all of what was going on. Why don't you try? When I contacted them, they said that it's a 2-year contract, and at the end of the 2-year, they would work on my PR.
PR, right.
So I could get permanent residence in Canada.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, I've never had this opportunity in the States.
Mm-hmm.
This is something new. I think I'll try it. So I went to Ocherius, did a bunch of interviews. They handled all the paperwork and stuff. And I already had my US visa. I had my insurance security card for the US. I could work in the US at any time. And so that was a plus to them. So I did the interview, got hired on the spot, and then I flew to Lethbridge. Everything they promised me, Rev, by the time I landed, started just falling apart.
Wow.
Nobody was there to pick me up at the airport. I ended up having to sit in the airport for another 2 hours.
Wow.
Then somebody came to pick me up. Didn't know where they were supposed to bring me. So they brought me to the restaurant. Then I figured they made arrangement with one of the restaurant workers for me to sleep in one of the bedrooms in their house. Everything just started going. And then I realized that it wasn't a restaurant and a pub. It was a pub that served food.
Big difference, huh?
And the way the young ladies would dress, and I'm like, needless to say, 2 months in, the boss said, well, the first month I tripled his sale in that place. Tripled. To the point where he took off on vacation, gone to Europe, and left everything in my hand.
Wow.
I even got promoted to general manager, where I was managing all 4 properties. And we were now in talks to open a 5th one, but in Calgary.
Wow.
And I brought up one of my Jamaican chef friends. He was living in the home where I was, and he was getting ready to be trained to send to Calgary to take over. And while he was in Europe, he sent me an email and says, Patrick, I don't understand what is going on. 2 months, going on my 3rd month. And I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? He said he's been getting a whole bunch of emails saying, I'm abusing my power, I'm harassing the staff, this and that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then he said, I'm ending my vacation early, I'm coming home. When I heard that, I'm like, you know what, I'm not staying here. Right? So apparently the young ladies felt like I was, stopping them from making tips. Because I'm from Jamaica, and I know when you work in the service industry, you have to look professional. So all of these shorts and these tank tops and these sleeveless, those are not good for an environment that food is being served.
Right, absolutely.
So I said, you can wear your leggings, but it has to be knee length. You can wear shorts, knee length. If you want to wear a skirt, knee length. No mini. I'm gonna get some nice polo shirts with the logo on. You look nice. All of they didn't want that, so they said I was overabusing. And then what? I guess the straw that broke the camel back, I guess, is that they went as far as to abuse me of sexually harassing them because they
wow.
And when they said that, I called him and I said, look, I'm not staying here. He said, well,
let's roll. Call this a day. Yeah, because the culture is different, and because I mean, they tap into a different environment, and the culture is different and everything. So for them, they're like, no, this is how we do, and this is abuse. Let's just put something on him, call it a day. It's a black guy, call it what it is.
And I was the black guy there.
Exactly, in a predominantly white area that you are. So of course that would happen. So fast forward here in Canada, married, here working in Canada. Later on, I believe your family, I guess, would have joined you here.
Yeah. So the Lethbridge situation, I told him I'm leaving. He said, if you're leaving, we have to revoke your visa and then you have to go back home. And then he said something. He said, if you can find somebody to take over your visa, we'll transfer it. Wow. When he said that, I'm like, so I called home, started talking to my wife. I said, it's either I come home or her father, Uncle Johnny, came on the line, and I kid you not. And he said, stay there. He said, you won't be the first Christian that run off in foreign. Yeah. That was what the man said to me, sir. And, I said, you know what? I remembered Bishop Simpson from the church in Edmonton. Before I left Jamaica, he and his wife was on vacation because his sister and her husband, they were returning residents from England, and they were attending the same church I was attending in Manchester.
Right.
And so he was on vacation, I think, a month before I left Jamaica, and he visited the church with Mom Eliza, and they preached. And I told him that I was coming to Canada. He gave me a pen with the church address and everything on there, and says, if I'm ever in Canada, I'm close by, come and visit. And I remember that pen. And while I was there sitting and looking at the pen, something, I'm not going to say God said, but something fell in my spirit, Rev. Right? And I went on Indeed and I started looking for jobs. And I remember praying and I says, God, I'm sending jobs. And while I was doing that, my uncle, Bishop Barrington Smith, called me. And I told him what was happening. And his word to me was, you know what? Come to Toronto. Right. Because in times like these, you need to be with family.
Family, right.
Now I was confused because should I go to Edmonton and visit Bishop Simpson, or should I go to Toronto and be with my family? And Rev, I put it in God's hand. I prayed. I said, God, I'm going to send applications to Toronto. I'm going to send applications to Edmonton. Wherever you want me to go.
Yes, sir. You bring me there.
And God is my witness. I sent 14 applications to Edmonton and 14 to Toronto. And to this day, as I'm sitting in front of you, I have not gotten one response from Toronto.
Yes.
I got 3 from Edmonton.
From Edmonton. So there, that's where the Lord placed you, and wherever He plant you, you'll flourish and must flourish there. You stayed in Edmonton.
I'm not trying to cut you, but let me just say,
yes,
when there's favor on you, it doesn't matter what you do, you won't leave. Because, sir, when I called Bishop Simpson, I told him I'm coming to Edmonton because I have some job interviews lined up. That man in his old age left his wife at home, drove downtown Edmonton after 1 a.m. on Thursday morning and waited at the Greyhound Depot for me.
Wow.
Took me to his house, gave me his entire basement.
Wow.
And said that is mine as long as I need it.
Wow.
Not only that, he got up the next morning and he took me to all my interviews. So the
My
Friday I
God.
did the interviews. By the Monday, I was in a job. And that man who hired me paid me under the table. Maybe I'm not going to call the name of the place.
Yes.
Paid me cash until my visa was being able
Done.
to travel.
Right. Transfer. What a God that we serve. The favor of the Lord, favor in fear. And once the Lord mandate that this is where you're going to be, the Lord will open the door. The Lord knew that Canada is where he'll be moving you to and get you set up and stable. And the Lord did just that. And so you're here in Canada, family is here, and you start to expand in career and growing. And then ministry start to take off and growing in ministry. And we're fast forwarding it. And you're doing what the Lord's work, preaching and teaching. And then the call come. The call came for you to answer the call to move to everything that you have been learning, that have been grooming. It's now 2 pastors took you under their wings and teaching you the way of the Lord, covering you, you know. And here it is now. It is your time to accept this call. You get the call. We need you to move again. We need you to move, and we need you to pastor. And what happened next? I'm not even going. You get the call. I needed to pastor. And what? Walk me through that.
I am very. I used to be very disappointed. What do you call it? Because the pastoral call came twice before.
Yes.
And I didn't want to be a pastor. I had the opportunity of living with 2 very profound men of God that have poured into me. And I had first-hand knowledge of the
Of what it is.
sacrifices,
Yes.
of what they have to give up, the nights they have to be on their face crying. I remember even when I was living with Bishop Simpson before my family moved to Canada. And that was the only reason I could have left his house, because my family was coming. Otherwise, he would have kept me there. But before my family came and I was living at his house, I remember hours in the night, he was on the phone counseling people at the hospital. And I felt so bad for him that sometimes I wanted was to go just take the phone and, for lack of a better word, cuss some of these people out and have, the man
just it's night, man. Leave this man alone. Go to bed. It's late.
Yes, man. So the first couple of times when I felt the call, I'm like, no, I'm not. No, not for me.
Not for me.
Not for me, man. And so, when Bishop and the overseer came and said they wanted us to talk to me, I looked at my wife and I said, you know what? Whatever they're asking, the answer is no.
Right.
So we didn't know what they were coming to ask us. They said they wanted to meet with me and my wife. And we looked at each other and we said no. And I felt betrayed, because when we were sitting down in that restaurant and they said, we have been looking for somebody to send to Montreal. And every time we prayed about it, God showed us you. Every time we talked to people about it, everybody we talked to suggested you.
Wow.
And they're talking, I keep looking at my wife and she's just staring at them, and I want her to look at me.
Yes, to give her that signal, like, hey, don't take this.
And then, when it was our time now to say something, I was going to open my mouth, she touched my hand. And that pause, I looked at her, and when she looked at me, they said, before you say no,
yes,
pray about it.
Yes.
Just because she touched my hand and we paused.
Yes.
They took that pause and said, before you say no,
pray on it.
I was
wow.
okay. We said,
Wow.
okay, give us a year. Give us a
Wow.
year. We ask for a year. Rev, within 4 months, everything that we basically challenge God. We say, God, if Montreal is where we need this, we need this, we need that to happen. This must happen, that must happen. Within 4 months, Rev, I kid you not,
Mm-hmm.
everything that we challenge God for.
Start to
In
come into play.
fact, my wife got confirmation twice
Wow.
before I got one. And she didn't say nothing because she said she's waiting on my confirmation. And the reason why I know she got her confirmation was because she was talking to her mother about it. And we're
Yes.
on a call one. We would call the family together every evening for prayer. And I'm talking about my immediate family, my mother in Jamaica, her family in Jamaica, everybody. We would just meet on Zoom, or we would do a WhatsApp call every evening and pray.
And have the call and
And
pray.
we were talking one evening, and her mother said to her, "Uno not making a decision yet. This is 4 months in."
Yes.
And she said no. And her mother's exact word to her were, "How much more confirmation uno need?"
And that's another one. Because the mother is talking. Hold it right there. We got to continue this conversation because we want to know what was the journey like from answering the call to becoming the pastor of this church, Bethlehem Apostolic in Montreal. You have to stick and stay right here with us for part 2 of this conversation, of course, with Pastor Smith, the miracle man. We've got so much more to unlock and to unravel right here on the Journeys and the Lessons podcast. So stay right here with us. Of course, we'll be bringing you part 2 of this conversation right here with Pastor Patrick Smith. To our listeners, whatever you're facing, remember that if God did it for Pastor, he can do it for you. And there's life after the storm, healing after the hurt, and purpose beyond the pain. We're going to talk more on this, the Journeys and Lessons podcast with me, your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan. Keep believing, keep walking, and never forget that you're born with a purpose. We say unlock, unfiltered your journey, your lessons. Stay right here. We'll come back with part 2 in the next episode. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Pastor. God bless you.
Rev. Bless you, Rev.
The journey and the lessons, your journey